Welcome to Wise Up Governance and Boards podcast, brought to you by 3 Wise Owls Governance Consultants. Covering hot topics in governance, risk, latest regulatory changes, and issues keeping directors and executives awake at night. Here are your hosts, Ainslie Cunningham and Deb Anderson.
Welcome to another episode of Wise Up Governance and Boards. Today we are joined by rugby league legend Steve Renouf. Steve is the Deadly Choices Ambassador for the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health. Steve is a Gunggari and Gubbi Gubbi man. He holds the record for the most tries for the Broncos, with 142 tries, wow, and was named in the Broncos 10 and 20-year teams, the 25-year grand final team and the Indigenous team of the century. He played 212 Broncos games, 11 Queensland State of Origin games, 9 International Australian Rugby League tests, and was part of 4 premiership winning teams for the Broncos. As a Deadly Choices Ambassador, Steve is an inspiration and fantastic role model. While he may no longer play football professionally, he still plays plenty of sport and is always keeping active and eating good food. He is a loving father to his 5 children and openly talks about his life with diabetes, encouraging everyone to make healthy choices. His favourite healthy meal is garlic prawns cooked on the barbie, and his favourite exercise is going for a walk. You can follow Steve on Twitter at TheRealPearl03. And Steve's deadly choice is to eat healthy, keep active, and keep his diabetes under control. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks for having me. Like that little intro.
Yes, thank you.
Garlic prawns on the barbie.
I know, that's a bit just like, wow.
Bit exciting.
I'm on the Gold Coast.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Deadly Choices program, Steve.
Yeah, look, Deadly Choices is celebrating its 10 years this year, so we're very fortunate that we are still operating the way we were, and Deadly Choices obviously was born out of the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health. We, when we first came together back in 2009, 2010, we had to have a community engagement program for the community, and Ian Lacey and Kieran Lander were 2 young men at the time, and they're still young, they're a bit younger than me, but we employed them, brought them on board and they came up with the original idea. So Deadly Choices was born as a schools program for Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander kids, just around healthy lifestyles, so eating the right thing, drinking plenty of water and having plenty of sleep and all that. So it was reinforcing what would have been taught at school as well, but we specifically target Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander kids within a school, and then out of that, came this idea that the boys come up with an idea, or the group at the time. It wasn't just the boys, and how about we look at these shirts that we made, the Deadly Choices shirts. You might see them around the place, and why don't we use them in the medical centres? To try and incentivise people coming for a 715 health check, and that's where it was born, and it was so popular using that concept, and along the way we built partnerships to help with that, and obviously the first one being a partnership with the Brisbane Broncos, because our community love rugby league, especially up here in the southeast corner. So having the Broncos come on board back in 2013 as our first partners in our Deadly Choices program, it just really lifted the profile of what we were trying to do. So the shirts become very popular, and the only way you can get one of those shirts is get a 715 health check.
So tell us a little bit about what that health check is. Yeah,
that health check is just, we have your normal testing. So it's when you go into a clinic, one of our AMSs, you'll have a Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander nurse or health worker will come and do your blood glucose levels, pricking the finger, and do your blood pressure, and so they're just your general checks when you're coming in to see the GP. But a 715 health check is obviously a lot more detailed, and there's a lot more around it. It's your normal health check that you might go to yourselves to a GP, and so it's just about that. It's just about the thorough check. And what we found, it's around that preventative health. So, a lot of the things we do, all our programs or community events, to participate in a lot of those, and I'll go through them, what they are later. Everyone has to get a health check, and it's amazing over the years that we've found people with underlying conditions they didn't have. A lot of those have been diabetes, but there's been heart conditions picked up just by getting a health check. And, we have a Murray Rugby League carnival where a lot of young and older men still play, and women and children. And, we've picked up diagnosed cases just through those health checks to go into these carnivals where people, if they stepped on the field, they probably wouldn't, it was pretty dangerous from a health point of view that they actually played. So that's happened over the years a lot. So once again, it's all about preventative health and picking up, chronic diseases that, people might not know they have.
And I think you've been quite open about having diabetes yourself.
Yes,
Has that been a catalyst to help you want to help others?
Yeah, without a doubt. I was diagnosed when I was 22, virtually at the start of my career. Even though I started the Broncos at 17, breaking in the first grade, I think 91 was really my first, full-time in the A grade at the Brisbane Broncos. So in 92 or early 93, I was diagnosed. So for me, I had no option. I mean, I was very lucky that I had a great GPs, obviously, and specialists here in Brizzy. I always say I was probably lucky, especially back then, being diagnosed in a professional sports team because we had access to the best here in Brizzy. And so it was just an option that my GP, who's still my GP, Dr. Peter Friss, and he just said, look, you got two options. You either look after your diabetes and carry on with your footy career, which has just started, or you don't, and you'll have a short career, virtually. And so that was the option. So I chose the
football career.
The football career, which means I had to look after my diabetes.
Yep. No, that's great to be able to have picked up on that so early and actually use it as a catalyst for change for you. And
yeah, without a doubt. And so then really my lifestyle as a professional rugby league player suited the diabetes. So I had to have a healthy lifestyle. I had to be active. And that sort of just meant, they had to test a lot more my blood glucose levels and just monitor it. But because I had that discipline there already of being a professional sports person, that really helped.
And you've got some great ambassadors behind you with this program. Yeah,
without a doubt. With Deadly Choices, we had Preston Campbell. He's been on board since we first started. We got Willie Tonga's come on board. We got Talisha Harden, who's now been selected. She's in the Queens. She's played in the Queensland team that won the other week, and she won a premiership with the Brisbane Broncos. And Petra Sevnasiva's come on board, and we got Willie Tonga. He's from where I'm from. He's from he grew up in Cherbourg. I was from Mergen, and so Willie's come on board, and we got a whole lot of Brandon Wakeling from down here. He's a weightlifter from the Gold Coast, so he's on board as well. And Scotty Prince. Yeah, Scotty Prince shows his face every now and then. Princey, he pops up every now and then. And Taliqua Clancy. So Taliqua now, I think, is on the Gold Coast. She's living in Adelaide, but she's a Queensland girl. Grew up in Kingaroy. She's rated as the number one beach volleyball player in the world, and she plays obviously with another partner. But on the Gold Coast here, not long ago in the Commonwealth Games, I think she got a silver medal. I think her and a partner, and so she's come on board too.
That's really good that it's branching into even other sports and that as well now.
Yeah, we talk about I spoke earlier about our Broncos partnership, and that's been very, very important. Our partnership is very important to what we do. So started obviously with the Brisbane Broncos. We went to the other Queensland Rugby League teams. We've got a few teams in Sydney. Obviously North Queensland, Gold Coast, and Gold Coast have been great. And then this year we formalised our partnership with the Queensland Firebirds, so that was really good. And then Taliqua Clancy came on board as a Olympian. So we were very happy with that. And Brandon Wakeling in his weightlifting. So they're both targeted to do the Tokyo Olympics. Let's hope they will go ahead.
Yeah, and it's so nice to see some really amazing role models for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community as well, so that, kids going through school have got some amazing role models to aspire to. And
yeah, without a doubt. And, as I said, we started out just with a school program, and that still rolls on. So, we're in a lot of schools here in Queensland, obviously, and across the state. So when we first started, we were the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health, but obviously Deadly Choices, we then, the Queensland State Government were very happy with what was being done within Deadly Choices. So we got funding to do a statewide rollout of Deadly Choices as well. So, and that's been going really well.
So once you pass the health check, how does Deadly Choices work?
Well, outside of that, so as I said, Deadly Choices is a program. So we have a lot of other programs around Deadly Choices as well. One of the original ones was our Work It Out program. So that was targeting elders, I think 50 plus patients. And it's probably been one of my favourite programs outside of Deadly Choices because we had elderly through our different medical centres. So we have exercise physiologists. So the guys would get, the patients or our community, the elders would get referred to the program. So we'd have about a group of 15 or 20. They get to work out at a gym, all under the watchful eye of our exercise physiologists, and then there'd also be a education part of that, where after we did our gym, we'd then go into a room and we'd talk about a specific subject around health, whether that be diabetes, bring a dietitian in or bring in a diabetes nurse or expert to talk to them about different conditions. So that changed every few weeks who we had in, and it was just nice to say to them, that program's probably going 9 years now. Deadly Choice, as I said, is 10 years old this year. So that specific program is the second running, longest running program we have. And I used to always say to them, because they're all the old aunties and that, and I used to love, I love going along and chatting to them. And I said, you're the most educated elders in the country around health. And that it very much is so true. That's what Deadly Choice does bring to the community, is about, we have, 10 years, we have young kids, so we do Deadly Kindies. We do work closely with our mums and bubs clinics and program where, encouraging mums. And this is a really another good one that I love, that, going full term for Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander mums was something, they never, there's a lot of underlying problems there, and they might not always do on the full term. So our mums and bub has really turned that around. So the young mums we brought into the clinic to help them through the way when they found out, they were pregnant, that all of a sudden we've had to turn these stats around in our area about, our mums going full term with their babies, which health-wise, which you'd understand, makes a big difference. So we've had young people born into Deadly Choices, so they're now 10 years old. They don't know any different. So it's about that early intervention, and that's what we really worked on. So it's early intervention. So we got all these young kids that have come through the school system that have been around Deadly Choices now for 10 years, and they know that's all they know. They know what it means to be healthy. What's the right thing. We added into what the program healthy relationships with young people and how that looks, and what is a healthy relationship. So that's been fairly new, brought into the Deadly Choices program, but it's something that we see as a bit of a priority for the community, just like your general health.
So I think I read something on the website around one of your aunties passed away earlier this year, who was a bigger catalyst for the program.
Oh yeah, look, we had Auntie Pam, and so she was our, she was sort of our shining light. One of the first nurses, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander nurses. And Auntie Pam passed, and she was, a big part of what we'd done, and obviously very important when we first started, and that was around the Institute. So, she was sort of our number one ticket holder, you'd call, and so it's just around those people, and that's where we recognise all of our elders who they fought for this way back, and my dad was one. He was there as well, and so they fought where we are today. They had to fight for that back in the day, so that's why we're very appreciative of what we never forget that. Us as an organisation, the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health, we're built on that. So they're sort of our principles, and our principles we tie into obviously linking back to traditional ways and cultural ways, and that's the way we operate. So we never forget that. We have our own system of care through our clinics, and it's very unique as well. So we talk about that, and it's not just a process long. We just get patients through and get them in for 15 minutes and roll them out. So it's a lot more detailed than that. And so the thing is, we realise that there's a specific care that our people need. And we got to have a culturally safe place where we bring them into too, which is our medical clinic. So and we built that's all part of what we do. So and historically, a lot of our people wouldn't go and get a health check or go to the doctor in general. And that's a few of the questions we got asked earlier about why do we have Aboriginal specific medical centres. I said, well, firstly, we couldn't believe someone asked that, but and then we just go, well, look at what's happening. They'll come and they all feel great. They're not intimidated by it. Anyone in general can get lost in our medical system, and that's nothing against our medical system because Australia's got one of the best in the world. But for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and we've showed that through what we do in the Institute and Deadly Choices, that we've got more than ever that many people coming through. I mean, I think we're not far off 40,000 patients just here in the southeast corner that have gone through our clinics or that are, engaged by our medical centres.
It's really just building that trust initially, isn't it?
Exactly.
Once you've got that, word of mouth gets around.
Without a doubt. And I say to people, I get caught up in my own little world with my work and what I do, and I do other bit of work, a bit like corporates and that. So you sort of go, when you want to get back down to earth or back in touch, I just go and hang out at a medical centre.
Yeah.
To be honest, and a lot of the other ambassadors say that they just love. I'll go to the Gabba clinic or wherever, and you sit there. And sometimes it's just good to connect with everyone when they come through. You sit down and have a cup of tea with the elders, and it's lovely.
Yeah. So let's talk about bringing those medical centres together as part of the Institute. How has that worked? So
originally the idea came up, I think it was about 2009, and I think we might have formed in 2009, but we had the 4 medical centres. So we had Kalwun here on the Gold Coast, Yulu-Barri-Ba at Stradbroke Island, ATSICHS Brisbane, which is at Wollongabba, and it's still there, and Kambu at Ipswich. So they were all community-controlled Aboriginal medical services. So they had their own active board. So then we had to talk to them and just say, well, this is the plan. Do you want to be a part of it? And we couldn't have done it without them. So we had to bring those 4 together, form another governing board, which came under the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health. They all have representation on the Institute's board, and then they just moved forward, making the decisions together. And obviously that was around a lot of governance areas, funding and administration, and I'll be very honest here, that needed to be looked at. This is 11, 12 years down the track. We go back, that really need to be looked at. And I think that was a big reason why things did happen that way. And all of a sudden, everything's running really well. We're 11 years down the track of the Institute, and, everything's going on really well. We've grown that from 4 to 22 medical centres. And when I say that to people, and they sort of go, you see their faces, why? And I said, well, a lot of people don't know, but the southeast corner of southeast Queensland is the fastest growing Indigenous population in the country. So we had to get the services out there for where our big populations of our people were living.
What sort of challenges have you had in getting funding?
Oh, look, I think it's a little bit out of my realm, but obviously been involved from the start. We've been pretty good. The reason being, my CEO will probably say different because he's at the forefront of all that, but I think what's happening quickly for us, our growth, obviously. So all along, And I really got to give our CEO, Adrian Carson, a big rap here because we've grown so quickly. When you think about that. So we're an organisation, started with 4, 10 years later, 11 years later, we've got 22 medical centres. We've got all this governance around all of that. And it has been a quick rise. And to having control that and operate in that says a lot about our leadership. We do have some great leaders within the organisation. Adrian Carson's one of them, and there's many others. So without that, I could sit here and say, "Oh, well, it just happened." But I know that's not true. I know that's not true. So it's but to be a part of that is, and you get to a point, you go, "Oh, we just sort of." We're at a point now where we're sort of looking at where we're going in the future, because the population growth is growing, and but yeah, look. There were obviously different challenges with the community, bringing those 4 clinics together and, representation. And, then we had our board for the Institute, they're not all Indigenous people on the board, so there was a little bit of pushback there. But, you build boards around expertise and, you got to have, a very diverse group, as you guys would appreciate, a diverse lot of people on your boards, and they bring their own different skill to that. And but I must admit, pretty happy where we are at the moment, and it's just about taking check now and see where we're going to be in another 10 years. And that is happening. So the thing is, it's been such a juggernaut of a organisation, really. But, we're very happy where we are at the moment.
Yeah, you're experiencing phenomenal growth.
Yeah.
And, as you've said, it presents its own challenges when you scale so quickly.
Yeah, it does. And it's just about what becomes a priority here. And obviously the community is always our priority. That's why Deadly Choices is so important to us. It's our community engagement tool. So that's always our priority. But then with our services and, and what, where do we go now? Mental health's are really ramping up, and that was a time thing for us to grab a hold of other, issues within the community, and we've partnered over the years with Movember and organisations like that, and so we make sure. This is what I always say to people: if we want to go into an area, and really, the thing is, we will do it when we know time's right, or we know we have the capacity to deliver. So we'll never go in short on something.
Yeah.
And that's why it might take a little bit longer, but that's the way our governance system's set up. We don't want to go into one area and go, oh, that's going to fail, because we just can't afford. You just don't want to have that happen.
And what sort of challenges and opportunities has COVID presented?
Oh yeah, it's funny because we just weren't sure like everyone else, and so I'd sort of sat back at the start of that. We're in isolation, and then all of a sudden we started we're sitting here in your studio, and we've had this overnight studio pop up. It's amazing. So young Jackson Canuto, he's our producer and expert. And out of that, I got my own podcast. I was very happy with that.
Welcome to the crew.
Yeah, I know. And so now we've reached the community out of necessity. So remembering that all our programs are interface with the community like this, one-on-one. You see them face-to-face, and that stopped. So then we know a lot of our mob are on Instagram, a lot are on Facebook. Facebook is massive. And I don't have the stats here, but we keep track of, our Deadly Choice digital platforms and where we're at. And so Facebook's big for us. So we go live Facebook or so we do a lot of work around that. That's come out of COVID. And what that's done, we're going to end up going from this, semi-permanent, studio to a permanent one, because it's just the way you would go in your head, with telehealth. And so it's been great, to be honest. And I think that was the only... when you thought about it originally, you thought that was going to be a challenge because we couldn't interface with the community, but that was just another way. And the funny thing is we'll just keep doing that. we're back out in the community now in different areas. Obviously, we have our schools program back up and running, and obviously still adhering to the rules with the other programs. We had another program launched this year late last year, DC Fit. So that was targeting 16 to 25-year-olds, and in the general community, but we noticed in our community that we had programs all around that age group, group. So it was all about them coming in and doing like station fitness, and it's not heavy fitness, obviously. And once again, they're referred to the program through our AMSs, and they're just for young people to feel like they can be young and fit, and once again, it's just getting that cohort of the community with healthy habits, which sometimes, as I said, in the greater community, they can drop out of not our society, but out of the loop of general life, and that happens across the board. So we're trying to keep them engaged. Yeah,
quite a vulnerable age group, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. And because it's just specific, talking about in a sporting term, rugby league, we'll have, and the stories all the time about these young kids, 15, 16, 17, they're going to be big stars, and they just get lost. And, they'll leave school and then, bang, you don't see them again. And it's like, where do they go? And sort of just get eaten up in, so it's around keeping that young group engaged in their health and taking responsibility.
And it's probably a safe space for them too.
Well, it is, and it's good to see. So we've taken that online as well. We took that online. So I had all the younger ambassadors actually do the physical work. I was just doing the commentary, so I was pretty happy with that.
Not out there showing them how it's done.
That's up to the younger ambassadors.
So in terms of your medical health practitioners, are there scholarships available to help the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders get to that level?
So we have at all levels, we have traineeships coming in varied areas, obviously, and we had a partnership with UQ. We now have a partnership, I think, with QUT. So we've always kept in contact with that education side of things. When so in areas that anyone's interested in, and we can offer it, and we do. So we'll start out, if kids want to come in at that level of a traineeship, just in Aboriginal health, it's a good way in, and we offer those. And I think we're one of, if not the, I hope I'm saying that right, but the biggest employer of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, definitely in Queensland, and I'm not sure in the country. So we make sure that's a big part of what we do. We have some, as I said, once again, we have a lot of good people in those places that help deliver that for us. And so that was really early on in the piece. So that's actually quite advanced these days. So, we have a lot coming through.
And they're really good advocates for the program too, aren't they?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. So, that was something that it's not, it is about health, but it's everything attached to that. We want to have our people be healthy right through their life, from birth to to being an elder, and so we've built all of that over the years, and but it was great that we recognised around those employment opportunities and coming into the medical industry, because we need more of our people in the medical industry.
Yeah, it's so great to be able to give back to the community. We really love hearing stories like that. So in terms of your career with the Broncos, how have you found in terms of being a team player in sport and, going through strong leadership in coaching and things like that? How have you found some of those transferable skills taken across into the Institute for you? Yeah,
look, I think it's about being a leader. I'm not a stand-up leader, but you become a leader within you. It was like a transition through my rugby league career, the Broncos. So I started there when I was 17. I left there when I was 29. So all of a sudden it got a bit scary for me, because Wayne goes, I think it was about 26, he goes, "Oh, you're in the senior leadership group this year." I go, "What?" So, I don't want to be in there. But you know what I mean?
There.
But you know what I mean? That's sort of used as an example, and then all of a sudden you got this responsibility. So then we're in the little special group who make decisions around the team. I said, wow. And I was obviously just came through as a kid, and I was happy where I was. And so just in the rugby league space that happened, and then it happens like even with the Institute and what we've done at Deadly Choices. So being there at the start, same thing. When we first started, you do in your own right, whether you want to or not, you become a leader within the group. So, and as I said, having great leaders is the big thing for me. So having Wayne Bennett and our board and our owners during that period from 88 through the 90s was amazing. And it gives me goosebumps when I talk about those men and women that, the reason why Brisbane are where they are today is because we're their foundation. And the same with the Institute, to be honest. And, Auntie Pam and, Adrian Carson, Cindy Shannon, she was our first CEO. And and that's held there. And I must admit, the thing is, a good leader will put good people around them. And that's exactly what's happened. So, as I said, we've got a lot of good leaders within this organisation, and that's why we're so successful.
You're a dad of 5. There's quite a few of your kids who've got diabetes as well.
Yeah.
And the work that your wife does in terms of...
Yeah, my ex-wife.
Oh, sorry. Steve. Sorry.
That's okay.
Do you want us to edit that out?
No, all good. That's all good. A lot of people do that. So have 5. The 5 of the kids have type 1 now, diabetes. So Sunny was she got diagnosed the same age as me. I was 22. She was 22 last year. She got diagnosed. So the 4 boys, they were diagnosed when they were 2.5, 4, 9. They were the first 3 boys. And then my eldest son, they were within 18 months of each other, actually, those 3. It was a really scary period. And then Sam, my eldest son, was diagnosed when he was 16. But they were successful with it. And as I said, you mentioned, my ex-wife, we had a company together called Diabetes. So it was around products for people with diabetes, and she still has that running. And so the kids are really onto their diabetes, and they are in their own right good role models for other diabetics. And we still try to. I've just gone back into diabetes. I've become the first ambassador for Australian Diabetes Educators Association, ADEA. So that's very new. That only happened last week.
Congratulations.
World Diabetes Day on 4th of November. I'm the first official ambassador. And the reason why I do that, because through our journey with diabetes and a family with diabetes, diabetic educators are probably, and the endocrinologists won't like me saying this, they're the most important point I find, or diabetic nurses, of your journey with diabetes, especially that when you're initially diagnosed. You believe it, even though it's a condition, it's not terminal per se, but it's a condition you've got to live with the rest of your life. It's very scary, for people when they're first diagnosed, and we know what that's like. So the people who made that really good for us, or made it not as hard, were diabetic educators.
My mum's a diabetic, and she got it when she was 35. I'm one of 4 kids, and the same thing. So she had gestational diabetes with each of us, and then when she had my youngest sister, the same thing. It just stayed on, and she's had it now for 35 years. And she finds that the diabetes educators are actually more up to speed sometimes with the latest developments in...
Well, latest development, that everyday care. So initially when you engage, most of the diabetes, you get their number, you can ring them. It's amazing, the service they give you. They gave us as a family, and when the kids were 15 at teens, they were allowed to ring them directly and talk to them about, I need something here, or this isn't working. And so the service they offer is amazing.
How great is that?
We just need to extend that to mental health, don't we?
Well, it is. It's just about having those organisations like ADEA put their hand up. And this year is obviously the year of the nurse. So we celebrated on World Diabetes Day last week, the nurses, the diabetic nurses, and what the important role they play. And I'm very honest about that. When I went into, you usually go in the hospital when you're first diagnosed, and you spend the night in there. And my diabetic nurse at the time was amazing.
So, in terms of the Institute, are there grand plans to become a national organisation?
Yeah, well, the title is Urban. Look, the Institute is obviously responsible for Indigenous healthcare delivery within the southeast corner, and that's why Deadly Choice is such an important tool or program for us, because we do have a national footprint with that. So we're in the Northern Territory, Alice Springs, Northern Territory. We're in Adelaide, we're in Victoria, New South Wales. We're not in WA as of yet, but there's been chats around that. So I think it'll be more Deadly Choices, and we have other things like our system of care, which is very unique in the way we deliver that. So we look forward to hear more about that, and so I think it'll be more around Deadly Choices, which we are already, do have a bit of a national footprint.
And do you find there's a common thread in terms of medical problems within your community?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Chronic disease, obviously, diabetes is massive, and heart disease. So a lot of the chronic diseases, and that's what we say. What the Institute and our programs bring, and I can say this confidently. I mentioned our Work It Out program for our elders. Well, we had people come into that program who've had, varied conditions over the, whether it be alcoholism, not drinking, but has had a stroke. I can guarantee you, by being part of that program for, they were possibly part of that program for seven possibly years or the like, that we've extended their life through that. I can say that confidently, because the lifestyle they came from was totally different under, say, our Work It Out program. Because all of a sudden they've been a lot more active. They're in a gym, believe it or not, in a gym, not pushing the big heavy weights, but just moving, and, they had that social emotional interaction. That's massive. You talk about mental health. That's a real big thing within our programs, is being together. And when you, a lot of our community that come into our programs, there's varied levels of mental health within the groups as well. So that being together and coming together, it's huge. So that we hold a lot on that around, that emotional side of things, and our people love being together. To be honest, it's about getting together, and I always say, we go, if we go to a medical centre, you always find a new cousin there somewhere, or an auntie.
Absolutely. So let's talk about culture. Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community is the poster child for culture. What sort of things could organisations be learning from you guys in terms of developing a stronger culture within their businesses?
Well, it's just about how you engage. I mean, I'll talk about non-Indigenous organisations, and it's about how you engage. So I do other work around reconciliation action plans, and some people over the years have boo-hooed them and saying that people organisations just tick in a box. Well, not if the organisation has made a real commitment. They're not, and I'll only get involved with companies that do, organisations. So I do a bit of work for Digital Health Australia, and we just launched ours the other week in NAIDOC week. Now, I can guarantee you that the people involved in our working group sincerely want to deliver what we have put out there in partnership with Reconciliation Australia. And so look at them. It doesn't necessarily have to be a wrap either. I mean, but if you commit, it needs to be done from the top, I believe. So the organisations I have been involved with, it's been from the CEO down. So once the CEO makes a commitment, that commits the whole company or the whole organisation. And I must admit the Digital Health Agency has done that. I did the same for Horizon Rail and Freight back in the day, and they're very much on board, and they've done their second one. I helped them deliver the second one, and then they went with it themselves. And so organisations who are fair income about it, I think that's a great way to go.
So NAIDOC week last week, what was your contribution to NAIDOC week?
So NAIDOC week was fairly busy. We did a big push through digital health because I sit on one of the committees for the My Health Record, and we find that the My Health Record and digital health going forward, obviously as we just seen in COVID, it's going to be very, very important for health delivery across the country. So we launched that. We obviously did a lot of online, did a lot of interviews last week. I reckon pushing 40, I'm talking 40
wow.
Radio interviews across the country.
So in the last 2
weeks. Yeah. And it's just been huge. So, I think that's what it's about. It's about sharing that, and it's really good with the stations, remote communities that I was talking to, and how I think they get it, but it's about us assisting them about the connectivity and how that's going to work and what it means to them. So what does digital health mean to someone in a nice up in Kalwun or something like that? So, and that's where it comes back to the organisation about, well, this is a journey you've got to come on with us because it's going to benefit the community in the long run, and it's going to benefit the whole country. But a lot of the work I've been doing has been specifically with Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander communities by delivering that through their radio stations. And we have a lot of other work happening around the country, Communities Excellence Program, which is East Arnhem Land, Port Hedland, Emerald here in Queensland. And so they're just models we're going to have around the country where we can show people within a community it'll work.
So in terms of, obviously diversity is still a big on the agenda in terms of boards for Australian companies. How can, and gender was a big ticket item for a long time, and now that that's sort of in some areas pushing 30%, how can boards get more diversity around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander representation on boards? Is there some sort of register of directors or a platform that can kind of marry those two?
Sure, they're out there. The way I co-chair one of that federal committee, the Medicine Safety Committee, and that was really just, mine was through connections, but it's about, possibly someone like me going and say, look, you can do it. It's, once you're on a board, it's you learn very quickly. I was very, when I went on boards, I co-chaired it with GPs and specialists, and I sort of, my first meeting, I was like, wow, what am I doing here? But I was there representing consumers, which is everyone in the country. So I then realised what my actual role was there, and that brings a different range. And then all of a sudden, he's Aboriginal man, so then you get that side of me. So I think there's that uniqueness, and you can say to people, try and get on boards. And I don't know the general, but obviously there's state government boards as well, and you can go on a registry there. I'm sure federal government does have a registry as well. And I sit on one committee for the state government as well. That's through skills and training though, and so there are opportunities there, and I think. Governments are realising that. You bring a unique part to a committee. So even outside of that, not being a chair, but being on a committee, it's great that if somehow we can get a lot more Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people on, because there's some, believe it or not, there's some smart ones out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, a substantial portion of our population.
Yeah, I know. You know what I mean. I was being sarcastic, but yes, it's really something that I think organisations need to look at.
Yeah, and look, everybody brings something unique to the table, and I think, like you've just said, a lot of people, feel that maybe I'm not good enough to contribute here, but really, people just need to be heard for what they do have to bring to the table, and I must admit, when I first had my meeting coming up, which I think, it was actually here in Brisbane, which was good, because usually I thought, I don't think you travel to Sydney or Canberra, but anyway, it was here in Brisbane. But it's one of those things when a penny drops when you're there. So in saying that to people who are looking at doing that. I think it's a bit scary at the start, but it doesn't take long to then realise why you're there. And then,
open your mouth.
Yeah.
Go your hardest.
And like we're big catalysts for diversity is so much more than gender. It's age. It's, different religions and different ethnicities and just so much more than just gender. Yeah.
No, you're right. And I think I must say the state government and their committees, and they're very good with it, especially with diversity. And obviously in different areas they look at that here in Queensland, and I'm pretty sure that gets mirrored across Australia. But then it comes down to the big corporates. I mean, we just look at what's happened with Rio Tinto. I'm not bringing on a negative here, but did they have a representative on their board that maybe not would have happened? You know what I mean? So things like that.
Yeah, thinking outside of the box too.
It is.
Corporations have progressed a lot in the last 50 years, with digital disruption and technology and so many different, ethical investment opportunities. And so with all of that growth, you do need a different change in mindset around the board table to be seeing these opportunities. Yeah,
without a doubt. And just look at the year we've had and what's come out of this year. So that's a lot of that, everything that happened during COVID and what's happened, I'll say directly what happened in America, it's all around diversity, it's all around culture, and so there's a lot to learn out of this year. And, and as I say, some of those corporates could, learn from that.
Yeah, well, the Black Lives Matter
movement
and
so,
all of that as well
exactly.
has happened. Yeah.
So, it's around representation and, and just having that, within your organisation.
Well, you go.
No, I was going to say you're an amazing ambassador.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
thank
and truly,
you.
it's just been an absolute pleasure for you to come on our show. So before we wrap up today, is there any sort of top 3 things that you'd like to leave our listeners with about the campaign or the work that you do? Yeah, look,
the work that we do, obviously, we're very proud of that. Deadly Choice, 10 years. I keep saying that 10 years, but we had no idea when this all started that we're 10 years down the track. We'd have close to a full national footprint with the program. It's worthwhile people looking at, have a look, jump on our website, Deadly Choices website, the Institute, because a lot of people don't know that, and I say we're just a program, but we're a program that was born out of the Institute, and hop online and have a look at our structure and exactly what we deliver for our people through our 22 medical centres we have here in the southeast corner.
And the website is?
Yeah, www. I think that's it. deadlychoices.org.au and obviously iuih.org.au.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, Steve.
Thanks,
no worries.
Steve.
Thank you.
That's all for today. Until next time, happy podcasting. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, check out our other episodes and all things governance at www.3wiseowls.com.au.